The Boston Celtics keep moving, and the timing of this move is not accidental. On Thursday, with the league watching the clock, Boston officially traded Josh Minott to the Brooklyn Nets. The news broke first through ESPN insider Shams Charania, and it landed quietly for some fans. But inside the organization, this decision carries far more weight than it seems at first glance. Before we go any further, if you want real-time Boston Celtics news, analysis without filter, and information that actually matters, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the hype button right now. That support keeps this coverage going and puts you ahead of the curve. Minott is just 23 years old, and his path in Boston was anything but random. Signed during the offseason after starting his career with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he earned real minutes early in the year. He started 10 games, brought energy, athleticism, defensive effort, and for a stretch, he looked like a legitimate rotation for a player stepping into his first real opportunity. Minott delivered exactly what coaches look for in a young wing, but the story changed as the season moved forward. His role shrank, the rotation tightened, and an ankle sprain kept him sidelined for a long stretch. By the time he returned, the minutes were gone. The opportunities were gone. He finished the season, averaging 5.8 points and 3.6 rebounds across 33 games, numbers that reflect limited chances more than limited ability. Now, Brooklyn becomes his reset. With the Nets, Minott is likely to see the floor, likely to compete for consistent playing time, and likely to show whether those early flashes in Boston were real. From a basketball standpoint, this move makes sense for the player. From Boston's perspective, however, this trade is about far more than on-court production. This is where the urgency kicks in. The Celtics already moved Boucher earlier the same day. They opened roster flexibility. They agreed to a two-way deal with Amari Williams. But the core motivation behind moving Josh Minott is financial, strategic, and calculated. Boston is threading the needle with a luxury tax. By trading Minott and other minimum salary contracts before Thursday's deadline, the Celtics slide under the luxury tax line for this season. That single step starts the process of resetting the repeater tax penalty that loom over the franchise. And here is the critical part. Boston must remain out of the luxury tax not only this season, but also next for that reset to fully take effect. So this was not a minor transaction. This was not just about rotation depth. This was about long-term flexibility, future spending power, and protecting the organization's crippling financial penalty, which leads to the real question now. If Josh Minott was moved to make the numbers work, and Boston is clearly managing every dollar with intention, who is next, and how aggressive are the Celtics willing to be as this financial chess match accelerates toward its most dangerous phase? The clock was almost out, and the Boston Celtics made a move that says a lot more than shows on the surface. Just seconds before the NBA trade deadline closed for good on Thursday, Boston traded Xavier Tillman Sr. to the Charlotte Hornets. The report came from ESPN, and the timing alone turns this into one of the most telling decisions of the day. At first glance, this looks like a quiet transaction, Tillman and cash consideration heading to Charlotte. But in reality, this was a calculated, urgent move made under maximum pressure, with no room for hesitation. The Hornets acquired Tillman along with $3.5 million in cash, and that detail changes everything about how this deal should be interpreted. Tillman's role in Boston had been shrinking for months. Since being part of the championship run in 2024, his minutes steadily declined. He played more than 15 minutes in a game just 5 times afterward. During the 2025-2026 season, he averaged 2.2 points and 1.8 rebounds across 14 appearances. Those numbers are not an indictment of effort, but a reflection of opportunity, or the lack of. This is where context mattered. Tillman is a known quantity around the league. Drafted in the second round of the 2020 NBA draft by Sacramento and moved to Memphis on draft night, he built a reputation as a physical, intelligent forward who understands defensive scheme. He spent 3 full seasons with the Grizzlies, then 1 full season in Boston. Coaches trust him, front offices understand what he brings, and yet Boston still chose to move him at the very last second. That urgency was not about basketball fit alone. This trade mirrors other recent deadline maneuvers around the league, including deals involving Charlotte that were clearly designed to manipulate the luxury tax line. By sending Tillman and attaching cash, the Celtics pull themselves away from the luxury tax. a line that carries long-term consequences far beyond this season. And that is the real pressure point. This was not about rotation, this was about financial survival at the top of the NBA ecosystem. Staying under the luxury tax now protects Boston from harsher repeater penalties later. It preserves flexibility, it keeps future options alive, and it signals that every contract, no matter how small, is on the table. Charlotte gives Tillman a chance at a reset, more minutes, more relevant, and a clearer role. Boston, meanwhile, sends a message to the rest of the league and to its own lock. No decision is off limits. No timing is too late. No move is accidental. Which leads to the question that now hangs over the franchise with even more urgency. If the Celtics were willing to move Xavier Tillman in the final seconds to protect their financial future, how aggressive will they be next? And who becomes the next unexpected name caught in Boston's deadline strategy? The Boston Celtics were not done, and this move confirms that the front office was working on multiple layers at the same time. After a week filled with trades and late decisions, Boston added a new name to the organization by acquiring guard Tonje as part of the Chris Boucher deal with Utah. On paper, it looks like a secondary piece. In reality, it fits directly into a much bigger plan that is still unfolding. Tonje arrives in Boston on a two-way contract, officially announced by the team. The timing mattered. Earlier on Thursday, the Celtics promoted Amari Williams to the active roster, opening a slot on the two-way list. Ron Harper Jr. and Max Shulga remain the other two players in those spots. That detail tells you this was not improvised. This was prepared in advance. At 24 years old, Tonje is coming off a productive stretch in the G League. He was selected 53rd overall in the 2025 NBA Draft by Utah and spent this season with the Salt Lake City Stars. Across 32 games, he averaged 18 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 1.4 assists per game. Those are not empty numbers. That is consistent scoring volume in a development environment designed to test offensive responsibility. Tonje is expected to join the main Celtic, where Boston can control his development closely. That is where the intrigue begins. The Celtics did not target a random prospect. Tonje brings a scoring profile the organization values at the margin: shot creation, confidence with the ball, and the ability to score at all three levels. Those traits are expensive on the open market, but far cheaper on a two-way deal. His background reinforces that evaluation. Tonje spent 6 seasons in college across Colorado State, Missouri, and Wisconsin. His final year with the Badgers was his breakout. He earned All-American recognition and established himself as one of the most reliable scorers in the country before turning professional. Boston has a history of betting on mature prospects who understand systems and roles. This signing cannot be isolated from the rest of the week. Boston moved Anthony Simons for Nikola Vucevic. Josh Minott was sent to Brooklyn. Xavier Tillman Sr. was moved to Charlotte. Chris Boucher was dealt to Utah. Every move carried a financial consequence. Together, they pulled the Celtics under the luxury tax line, preserved future flexibility, and reset internal options. Right now, Boston sits at 12 rostered players. They need at least 14. That means more moves are coming, and that is why Tonje mattered. He is not just a name added at the deadline. He is a signal of how the Celtics intend to fill gaps without sacrificing long-term control. If Boston is willing to reshape its depth, manage every dollar, and quietly add scoring upside through a two-way deal, what does that say about the next move already being discussed behind closed doors? And could Tonje be just the first piece of a much bigger adjustment still ahead? If you want to stay ahead of every Boston Celtics development, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the hype button now. This story is far from over.